Ding, 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 ding. Let's get ready to rumble! Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Sunday. It is Sunday, January 8th, 2023. So good to see all of you. Welcome to the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, JB. You're watching the JB Show this Sunday afternoon. Good to see all of you here. Just to let you guys know, the JB Show is live every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on RBN. If you are new, thank you so much for joining. Also, please give us a like if you like what you're watching, as well as to anybody who's returning, thank you so much for returning. All new subscribers, good to see you as well. And thank you to all the patrons on Patreon who contribute to Revolutionary Blackout Network as we continue to push forth, blacking out the corporate narrative and actually pushing for poor people and workers, especially from a Black perspective. It is so good to see every single one of you guys here today. Make sure, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, because this actually puts more of these types of content out there for people to see. Also, when you like it, it also pushes out this content for more people to see, because guess what? The algorithm doesn't like us, and so they don't want this to be put out there for people to see. So it's so good to see all of you here today. We actually have a really good show today. I was very hyped and prepared for this show. Look, let me tell you something. I got my tea. I'm ready. There's some stories to get to. One of them is a somber story that I want to get to. But first, I want to get to a something that's a little bit more funny. But before we get to that, I got to take a sip of my tea because, well, here we go. Oh, I did good. I did really good. All right. Now, as per usual, whenever I go live, I also want to make sure I say hello to everybody that's inside the chat. Let me make sure that I got this all set up and ready to go. Let's get ready to rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. All right, so people who are usually would be in the chat in Rockfin aren't here as of yet, but they will pour in. Let's get to the people who's on the YouTube side saying hello. And also, please make sure to put that thumbs up, okay? Because that is also very important. And if you guys would like to check out my channel, I also put that in the chat as well if you guys want to check out my own channel as well. Because I do my channel I go live on my channel on Tuesdays at 2 as well. We have AG in the chat giving thumbs up. Good to see you, AG. AG. All right. Carrie Scott is in the chat saying, here. Remember when we used to do roll call in school? Here, present. Dabby Dabs is also in the chat saying, RBN fam. Good to see you. Yep, good to see you too, Carrie Scott. Eric Gray say, sup y'all, and yeah, I just watched a clip of Sinzae's mother recounting the events that day before Sinzae died. As a Black male, I wonder when we are going to reach a breaking point of no return. Absolutely. That's a very good question. And I think we need to ask ourselves that, especially not just as a community, but even people who are outside of our community. When is enough? That's something that we need to ask ourselves. Terry Connolly is also in the chat saying, greetings, beautiful RBN fam. Good to see you, Terry Connolly. Arif is in the house saying, Haiti. Good to see you, Arif. All right. Rick Solis saying, hey, y'all. Good to see you, Rick, in the chat. Wari says, hey, everybody. All right. Yeah, do I remind you of that game? JB reminded me of Let's Get Ready to Rumble with this intro. Afro Thunder and Angel Racing Rivera were absolute savages. All right. Desiree Davis says, my brother has chronic kidney failure and is inspired by you. Oh, thank you for being such an awesome person. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Those of us who deal with chronic illnesses a lot and especially with those of us who are disabled, a lot of times people, you don't see a lot of us, or a lot of us tend to hide that. So I think that's really important for us to not only put this information out there about ourselves within reason, but at the same time, it is also a means to encourage people to still continue to keep living, to keep, doing your utmost to thrive. So thank you so very much for that. I really appreciate it as well. Oh my God, this stupid thing popping up. Okay, Jenna Comer says, I live just a couple blocks from an apartment complex where Sinzae Reed was shot. Oh my gosh. Please give us whatever information you can that you have on the ground, Jenna. Please make sure to give it to us in the chat, and I'll just post it up in the chat, okay? I appreciate you being in this chat as well, watching. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll be getting to Sinzae Reed's story in a little while. We have Grey Ghost saying present. Key and Peele. It's a good name. Your name's not AA Ron. You on my last nerve, AA Ron. Zero Joshua. All right. Throwing up the peace and thumbs up gang signs. Good to see you. Danny's also in the chat giving shout outs to Wari. All right. Mr. Borek says enough was when they started bringing people over here in chains. Bars, Mr. Borek. Thank you so much. We have Aurora saying, hi, JB. Hi, Aurora. So good to see you. All right. We have Mark P. Thickow says, I'm from Sweden. Hello from Sweden. And I am fighting capitalism here too. But I think USA is the most important battleground. When U.S. capitalism falls, the others will follow or be easier to topple. Okay. Did you ever see The Matrix? Particularly not the fourth one that came out last year, but the third one in the trilogy, Matrix Revolutions. And remember when the Smith that was copied from the Oracle, when he blew up, and then all the other Smiths blew up in a cascading effect? I see capitalism happening like that in the United States, where when capitalism falls in the United States, because it's in the imperial core, the United States, once that ends, it causes a cascading effect. And everybody goes, if the United States cannot stand up to capitalism, if capitalism cannot endure under the richest country in the history of the world, under the most powerful military in the world, then it cannot stand in any other place on this planet. And so I am tickled pink for the day when it actually ends and we actually recognize, oh snap, we are now in a new age of a more egalitarian society. And so thank you so much for enduring and putting up the fight in Sweden. Solidarity with you. Keep up the fight. We're trying to keep up the fight here. It's best to keep up the fight on multiple fronts. You're doing it from the European side. We're doing it here from the American or the USian side. And we're trying to help out, especially those of us who are family, who are in the global South and South America. We're helping out our family in Bolivia and Brazil and Argentina, Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua. We're helping them out. We're trying to help out our brothers and sisters out there in Burkina Faso and in Libya and in Eritrea and in South Africa. We're doing all we can in so many different parts of the world to try to beat this rapacious system on all fronts. And it's important that you do it too. And thank you so very much. Love you from abroad. Who else do we have? Awesome. Let's see. Who else do we have? Skip over? What did I skip over? Hang on. I didn't see Dabby Dabs. Good to see you though. Did you say something that I missed? I'm sorry. What did I miss? Did I miss something? I'm sorry. Kerry Scott says, JB, can we talk about how to get American ownership of our utilities? That's actually a good conversation. In fact, one of the people who actually talked about utility ownership was Ron Placone when we had him on a couple times. He talked about municipal broadband, which is also very important. But, like, for instance, the Tennessee Valley, they actually have a utility company that is publicly owned. And to do that, not just with internet, but also with electricity and water and gas, would be a huge thing for it to be publicly owned. Public ownership of these utilities so that people can, number one, save money. Number two, like, okay, here's how socialist I am. I'm of the opinion that it all should be paid for via taxation, and it should be free at the point of service. That's how I am. But in the interim, if we do have to pay bills, utility bills, then it should be publicly owned and publicly operated. And the only things that we should be paying for is the repairs, the maintenance, and the operating costs of it. And if we need to expand, then pay a little bit extra into that for just in case we need to do more expansion. But outside of that, it should not be for profit. So therefore, it should be publicly owned. So, but we talked about that a little bit with Ron Placone. I think that has to be an ongoing conversation. So I would like to talk about that a little bit more. So thank you very much for implementing that as well, Kerry Scott. All right. Franken Kitten says, happy Sunday, comrades. Good to see you as well. All right. Oh. Look, I'll say it right here. I ain't afraid. If you're disenfranchised, and by disenfranchised, I mean disabled, queer, meaning lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, what have you. If you are a woman, both cis and trans, if you are black or non-white, even if you're white, if you have the opinions of revolutionary in mind, I do think it's important that you learn to defend yourself, both armed and unarmed. I think it is important to exercise your rights to defend yourself as well as your Second Amendment rights. I agree with that, especially if you are of the most disenfranchised within our community. So if you're a trans, baby, get to the gun range. Baby, get to some martial arts training. Learn to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I don't put it past any of these fascists out here. I just don't. Yeah. Yeah. Do it. I don't care if you have to be friends with some people in some militia groups and then they train you how to use it. Go ahead, do it. It's your right. It is. So yeah, I got you, Debbie. It's all good. All right. Top 10 says, JB, are you going to have a debate of Medicare for all? What's there to debate? I mean, what, 85, 90% of Democrats, they agree with Medicare for all. What is it, like almost 70% of independents, and then like 55% of Republicans actually agree with a single payer healthcare system. So there's really not that much of a debate on something that's largely embraced by most people. And even then, I think Medicare for all is too weak. I said what I said. I think Medicare for all is actually too weak. I think we need a full nationalization of healthcare system. Because even if you have Medicare for all, these medical device manufacturers, big pharma, all these different companies, hospitals, outpatient care facilities, they all operate on a profit incentive. I don't think they should. I don't think a profit motive should be operated on when it comes to healthcare. So therefore, I think it should be nationalized. So sue me. But yeah, debate, I don't. And to be honest with you, I really don't debate. I have discussions, but I don't debate because the debate culture is more about who can be the most witty. And just because you're the most witty doesn't mean that you're actually correct in what you're saying or you have the best fact. It's just, I'm just not a debater. And also, I'm terrible at debating. I'm being honest. I'm going to be real. I'm terrible at it. So if anybody would debate, it would probably be similar like Nick. Nick is a good debater. Creative Experience says, how's that private ownership of public commons going? Yep. My goodness. You see, track 17 says, what is your debate about Medicare for all? It's an obviously necessary step towards a better nation for all. What question do you have specifically about it? Perhaps someone could answer. Oh, well, you guys are pretty knowledgeable about it, so you guys can answer that. Christopher Raymond says, local, culture, soil under my finger, nails, big sucks. I don't know what that's about, but good to see you as well. Marxist gobbledygook. I wouldn't call it gobbledygook. I would just talk it, but it's always good to see. Nick is in the chat saying, do you make more than $10,275? Oh boy, do I need life insurance registered agents. I don't know what that's about. All right. So let me check Rockfin. Anybody in chat? Not yet? Okay. So, all right, let's get to the story. So, when was the last time y'all saw a fight in school? Top 10 says, why didn't the squad force to vote? I'm going to say something, and people are going to get pissed off at me for it, especially the legacy left. I'm going to say this loud and clear. The squad actually doesn't believe in Medicare for all, because if they actually did, they would actually have forced to vote on it. But because they don't actually believe in Medicare for all, they feel it's worth fighting for as hard as we think it should be. Part of it is because that they are actually comfortable. They're comfortable now, especially because they're making well over $100,000 a year, and within 5 years they get a pension, and they get a pension for the rest of their life for being Congress members. So because of that, they have no sense of urgency whatsoever in order to enact it, because now they have health care and now their families are being taken care of. So, of course, they're not actually being willing to force to vote on Medicare for all. And so this is why the squad is not fighting for it. Also, while we're at it, One of the reasons why they don't fight for Medicare for all is because their goal is really to be careerists. That's what their goal is. And so because their goal is to be careerists, then they're not going to want to shake the apple cart. See, here's the problem with reformists. Reformists don't want to shake the apple cart. They just want to fix the apple cart, even though there are no wheels on it. So in order for us to really, truly actually get change, is you got to replace the apple cart with a different one. By doing that, you got to take the contents out of that apple cart, being you got to tip it over. They're not willing to do that in order to replace the wheels. So guess what? They're not for it. They don't believe in it. I'm sorry. Because if you actually believe in something, you fight for it. And because they don't believe in it, they're not going to fight for it. They talk a good game. They talk a great game, right? I believe in Medicare for all. I'm willing to fight until the fight actually comes. Until the opportunity actually presents itself. When the iron is hot and you got the hammer in your hand and you put the hammer down and say, that's not the right way. And then somebody else comes behind you, takes that hammer and strikes the iron and makes it into whatever they wanted to make it, instead of you making it into what you wanted to make it into. And then you look at them hammering the hammer and you go, oh my God, it's so violent the way they're hammering that hammer. And then guess what? They actually made the tool that they wanted because they actually struck while the iron is hot. You could have struck while the iron was hot, and you could have actually made it the tool into whatever you wanted to make it into, but you didn't. And so now you're criticizing the person for striking the hammer while the iron was hot and making it into whatever they made it into. And now they got concessions. They got what they wanted. This is exactly what happened. And so when people go, oh, well, they're actually for Medicare for all, I don't believe them. Why I don't believe them? Because they won't fight for it. That's like your homeboy going, hey, man, you know, when you get into it, I'm going to get into it with you. I'm down for you, man. Right? You down? Okay, you down? All right. So if somebody's messing with me and they want to fight me and then they start jumping me, are you going to stand there on the sidelines and be like, stop it? Or are you going to get in there and back me up? Oh, it's only words until the actual fight happens. That's what I mean. That's what we mean at RBN. The thing is that if you're not willing to fight, then just say so. Don't take the job if you're not willing to do it. See, they want the benefits of saying they'll fight for it without actually fighting for it. And this is the problem. And when people tell us not to criticize them, it's like, but you left us out there hanging. You let me get my ass beat while you stood there and you promised you would fight for me and you didn't. That's the problem. That's the issue. And for anybody who says, well, they're just going about it a different way, they didn't even try. That's the issue. And this is why you got many of us saying, get the hell out of the Democratic Party. Because guess what? They all back each other up. And they'll say, well, they don't take corporate money. I don't care if they don't take corporate money. They are accessories to the theft. They may not have robbed the bank, but they sure as hell are driving the getaway car. So why are we backing up somebody who's an accessory to the crime? AOC is literally giving money to CIA Democrats, an accessory to the crime. Let's be real, people. Why are we praising that? They're giving money to the Capitol Police for them to shoot us in our backs. Why are we going for the accessories to the crime? Jamal Bowman, an accessory to the crime. Mark Pocan, an accessory to the crime. Pramila Jayapal, accessory to the crime. Ro Khanna, accessory to the crime. They're all accessories. They may not take the corporate money, but they damn sure follow the people who do. They take the orders from the people who do. And they give them glowing types of titles like Mama Bear. And they'll say things like, Joe Biden's doing a wonderful job. And top 10, I'm not going after you. I'm using your point to make a point. I'm using your question to make a point. When people talk about they're the best we have, that is a low bar. Very low bar. To the point where if they're the best we have, we're already dead. That's like going to a sword fight and somebody hands you a pool noodle and says, this is the best we got. And then when I try to grab a pole to defend myself instead of said pool noodle, then you attack me for it. Because the pole is more stiff, more brittle, more unforgiving. But you need something like that in order to combat what is being thrown against you. We don't need these pool noodles fighting against these swords of fascism. We need either another brittle, sharp, resilient person to go up against them, or we got to go a whole different route. This is why I am not a Democrat. Because they may not be the slaughterer, but they're literally the person holding the rope leading us to it. So why should I give them any deference than I give to the slaughterer? That's why. Right? Jenna Colby, pool noodle. It's better than nothing, right? It's like, what? You know, it's just like, come on, man. You know, we're already dead. You're already dead, man. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and by the way, I wasn't coming after you. I was just using your question to make a point. But yeah, it's just, yeah. Aaron, if you're if you're editing this, sorry, I didn't mean to go on that rant. This is completely off the sub. Well, it's actually kind of related to the subject, but I didn't mean to go on that rant. So, but yeah, 30 minutes in, and I'm already in a rant. Okay. So now the fight. So let's go. If you guys have not seen lately, there was some things went down on the House floor. So first, let's refresh the memories of everybody and show exactly what led to this fight. There was a fight, or some words, I'll say, that almost turned into a fisticuffs. between Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, and I'm going to show you guys what led up to that first. And then we'll see what happened on the schoolyard at 3 o'clock. And so we're going to go into this really quick. That tea really worked. All right. Wait. Okay. All right. So just to refresh everybody's memory. Here we go.
Sometimes we have to do jobs that we don't really want to do. And sometimes we have to do jobs that we are called to do. And so, my colleagues, I rise to nominate the most talented, hardest working member of the Republican conference who just gave a speech with more vision than we have ever heard from the alternative. I'm nominating Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is humble, perhaps today, humble to a fault. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who wants it so bad. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who has sold shares of themselves for more than a decade to get it. Maybe Jim Jordan is the right person for Speaker of the House because he is not beholden to the lobbyists and special interests who have corrupted this place and corrupted this nation under the leadership of both Republicans and Democrats. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person for Speaker of the House because he wouldn't fight us when we try to get a term limits bill on the floor. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person because he wouldn't fight us when we try to put a balanced budget on the floor and vote for it. And maybe Jim Jordan is the right person because he would endorse the plan that was built by the Texas delegation to finally secure our border. Mr. Jordan said in his nomination that there are certain bills that we have to pass to fix the problem. The challenge is the alternative has been someone voting for the very bills that have caused these problems. Mr. Jordan says that we cannot accept legislation like the omnibus, and I fully agree. And if Jim Jordan were Speaker of the House, if he were the leader of the Republican team, we wouldn't have that circumstance choking the economy of our country, increasing inflation, and diminishing the prospects of a better life for our fellow Americans. And finally, Mr. Jordan said we must engage in rigorous oversight. Every one of my Republican colleagues knows that the person who can lead that oversight effort, who works on it every day, who has the skill and the talent and the will, is Jim Jordan. I'm nominating him, and I'm voting for him.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Did y'all hear that? Lord and Lord, he said it in his face. He went up in McCarthy's face and said, I'm nominating Jim Jordan. He said it with his whole chest, too. He was like, nah, you're the wrong one. Everybody wants you to be Speaker of the House. I don't want you. Look, Matt Gaetz did what we wanted the progressives to do, and they didn't do it. Remember that analogy I gave with somebody striking while the iron was hot, but then they didn't want to? And so they put the hammer down, and then somebody else comes in and strikes the hammer while the iron is hot and makes their own weapon? That was what it was. That was the other person coming and striking while the iron was hot, and then they created their own weapon with it. That's what it was. Matt Gaetz did that. And the thing is that we're not praising Matt Gaetz on his policies, but the strategy is something that should have been done on the progressive side, but it never was. And it took Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus to show how forced to vote is actually done. How sad do you have to be to lose on this battle to the Freedom Caucus and Matt Gaetz? The fact that the Freedom Caucus and Matt Gaetz shows more intestinal fortitude than you? That's sad. Progressive who? So let's get into what actually happened. Oh, this is good. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be, y'all better get y'all popcorn out ready. I'm telling you right now, because this is going to be some fire. Watch. Okay. Hang on. And this is going to be, look, C-SPAN was lit. I'm telling you. C-SPAN is never lit, but this time C-SPAN was lit. Oh my goodness. Look, y'all, hold up. Hold up. That's the mother D-R-E Snoop Dogg. Okay, hang on. Okay, hold on. Oh my goodness, let me make sure I get this right. So that's what happened, right? Him and like 20 other people refused to vote for Kevin McCarthy to be speaker. And that's the votes that Kevin McCarthy needed to become speaker. And they withheld their vote in order to gain concessions. In order for Kevin McCarthy to be speaker, he had to concede to those concessions, right? To their demands. And so the fact that Matt Gaetz stood up to him was something that we wanted the progressives to do. Okay. So they refused to vote for McCarthy, and it goes 15 rounds of voting. 15 rounds of voting. This hasn't been seen in over 100 years. This is wild. They are holding out. They are holding the Republican Party and the House hostage in order to get what they wanted. Now, Matt Gaetz holds back, and Kevin McCarthy loses by 1 vote to be speaker. Kevin McCarthy's like, all right, let me handle this. I want y'all to see this. You can cut the tension with a knife. Uh-oh, finger pointing. Uh-oh. Uh-huh. Okay. Lord. All right, wait for it. Hold on. Wait for it. Hold up. Woo! Y'all didn't see that? All right, let's go back. Hold up. Let me see. Okay. See the dude with his hands on both dude's shoulders? See that? Now, I want y'all to look. Watch the dude with both hands on both dude's shoulders towards the left-hand side. All right. Ready, set, go! Ah! Hands over the mouth. Pull that ass back. Ha ha! Nope. No, you don't. Shut up. Oh Lord, this was hilarious. I'm telling you right now. Look, we got to go back over that again. Look, go back. Hang on. This is rich. Look. Oh Lord, Jesus, that was great. See, I told y'all should have your popcorn ready. I had mine ready. I'm telling you, that was crazy. Look, that was the most fun I've ever seen something done on the House floor. I've never had so much fun watching that. That was what happened. And let's be honest. What happened was a result of some people in the establishment basically saying, how dare you don't bend the knee? Even though people like myself think the policy stances on many of these people are utterly disgusting. They're racist, xenophobic, sexist policies, ableist. But here's the thing. They actually stood up to their establishment. You know? But what concessions were obtained? A lot of people are asking that. Like, what was the concessions? Sweary Fairy, I wish there was some chair throwing. I really, really wish. That would have been some WWE level type of stuff, man. I'm telling you. Anyway, so what were the concessions? So this was out of Reuters. Man, I tell you, popcorn sometimes is the enemy of teeth. Whew. So this is out of scroll up. Okay. Things moving slow. Let me take this down. Speed things up. Okay. Why are you refreshing? Anyway, so it says Kevin McCarthy elected House Speaker, but at a cost. So, what cost was it? Well, let's go to the concessions. So, the concessions he agreed to, McCarthy will hold considerably less power than his predecessor, Democrat Nancy Pelosi. That will make it hard for him to agree to deals with Democrats in a divided Washington. Allowing a single member to call for a vote to remove the speaker will give hardliners extraordinary leverage. So basically, one person can say, well, you know what? I think that this person is doing a horrible job. So they can call for a vote to remove the speaker. One person. Which considerably diminishes the power of the speaker, which is extraordinary. So that's one of the major concessions. The next one is an agreement with cap spending for the next fiscal year at last year's levels, amounting to a significant cut when inflation and population growth are taken into account. Could meet resistance from more centrist Republicans or those who have pushed for greater military funding, particularly as the United States is spending billions of dollars to help Ukraine fend off Russian assault. So this also curbs military spending. The mere fact that they got a concession to help cut military spending, the Republicans, they got a concession to curb military spending, to cut it. That should be a progressive position. That should have been one of the concessions they got Nancy Pelosi to do if they had actually forced to vote. But they didn't. So they actually pushed McCarthy into a corner. They managed to do that. And so all the people that go, oh, well, those concessions are just procedural, they don't really matter, blah, blah, blah. No, they matter. They matter a great deal. And imagine what we could have done, not we, the progressives could have done, if they had forced the vote and got a floor vote on many different items or different asks that they wanted, that really the majority of us as American people wanted. Imagine what they could have gotten. And to the people who say, oh, well, forced to vote means that you are trying to get Medicare for all passed and it won't get passed. The point is to not get it passed. The point is really a setup to show the people who they really are. Because you trust the progressives, the Democratic Party to be who they are. The problem is that they lied to the faces of all these people. And so this is a way to show people, okay, you actually want to vote and pass Medicare for all while we have a Democratic president, a Democratic-controlled Senate, and we're still in the Democratic House. We literally control the entire government. Let's force a vote in the middle of a pandemic on things like giving us a federally a federal $15 minimum wage. You could do the cutting of military spending like the Republicans did. You could do Medicare for all, a floor vote for Medicare for all. You could do student debt cancellation via executive order. You can do all these different things to be like, look, we want all these different things, right? And they could have made it so that this is what it needs to be done in order for us to vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. And then let's say hypothetically they did. She did agree to put a floor vote for Medicare for all. Some of the people that claim they support Medicare for all would have been in a position where they can't vote for it and know that it's going to get voted down on a typical year where the Republicans have a majority or Republicans have control of, let's say, the Senate and the presidency. So they can say, oh, we voted for it. And so we sent it over to the Senate and, oh, it failed. Sorry. Now, it's more of an open lane. So guess what? Now you're going to see, now they're going to hold back. Like, I support it, but no, there's no, get the out of here. And so because of that shows us who they really are, including people who consider themselves progressive, including people who even said that they were co-sponsors. Remember, Kamala Harris says she was a co-sponsor of Medicare for all, and what happened? Do you remember? She said it. She talked about it on the campaign trail during the Democratic primaries in 2019 and 2020. And then she backed away. Boy, she moonwalked back away from that Medicare for all. Yep. And this shows who really is on the side of the people or isn't. So then, when they fail the litmus test, that is the floor votes for the things that they actually want, then the actual true, real deal Holyfield progressives can go, we need to primary this person. They're not a real progressive. And so then guess what? 2022, 2024, we got to get them out. They're not actually for it. And then there's a possibility, greater possibility that they will actually lose. And the American people would get behind it. But they didn't want to do that because they knew that there's power in it. And then you have some people going, oh, well, it wouldn't get that much press coverage. This has been all over corporate media like nobody's business. Why? Because controversies like this, they live for it. They can't resist. This is drama. You know the corporate media lives for corporate drama. I'm sorry, for political drama. Because guess what? It's great for the ratings. You don't think that the progressives actually forced a vote and held Nancy Pelosi's speakership in their hands? You don't think that they wouldn't? Oh, you know they would. Come on. Because people like me and RBN, we trust the corporate media to be exactly who they are. Why would I dangle a mouse in front of a snake's face if I'm not expecting it to bite? To show you how much of a snake it really is. I'm trusting the snake to be the snake. so that I can say that's a snake, baby. Just because it's camouflage in the bush and you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I'm dangling the mouse in front of what you don't see, and I see to be a snake. I'm dangling the mouse in front of it so that when it you'll say, oh my God, that is a snake. Whoop, there it is. So this is the thing that we're trying to get people to see. But they don't want to see it. And trust and believe that the majority reports and the breaking points and the TYTs of the world are all saying, don't look at what the GOP just did. Look at what the Freedom Caucus just did. Even though it worked. It worked, my friend. It worked. So yeah, forced to vote actually works. That was actually a great strategy by the DSA, even though the DSA doesn't want to do it. Yep. Who were supporters of forced to vote? Kyle Kalinske was pro forced to vote. Yeah. Crystal Ball was pro forced to vote, even though she's backsliding. She's doing a moonwalk away from it. Yeah. At first, Cenk Uygur actually was for it. And Sam Sierra was for it until they received a phone call. Then suddenly they weren't for it. And who else was for it? Brianna Joy Gray was for it. She's still for it. And she's right. Jimmy Dore was for it. In fact, because of his platform, there's a reason why all of us know about it, because he literally held a town hall on his channel about forcing the vote. That's how we know about it, because he made it popular. Sorry, but he did. No matter what people think about it, he did. And guess what? It's correct. And the Aaron Montes and the Max Blumenthals were for it. And the Danny Haifongs were for it. And the Margaret Kimberleys were for it. There's so many people who said, yeah, withhold your vote. Hell, you can even go to a Republican and be like, so if we held the speakership hostage in order to get concessions, is that a good strategy? A Republican be like, hell yeah. That's how you get stuff done. Yet, it doesn't work. And so the fight between Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz was a beautiful case study in showing us that forced to vote worked. But here's the problem. We actually had a case study before that. Remember the Tea Party caucus? They forced the vote. And that was our example that we used and forced the vote. The Tea Party did it, so guess what? The Democrats, the progressives can do it. Then people say, well, no, that's not the same thing. So then the progressives didn't do it. Now the Freedom Caucus does it. Guess what? It actually worked. It worked. We saw it in real time for the speakership. And now you got people saying still, it doesn't work when it actually did work. Denial's not just a river in Egypt, sweetheart. Anyway, so that's what happened. That was the fight. Now I'm going to go to the chat before I get into the next story. What he said, that's a massive concession right there. One and done. Yep. Christy Knight says they curb military spending so they can come after Social Security. That may be true, but the thing is that the focus is on the method, not the actual policy. So, yes, I would definitely cut military spending. I would like to cut it 90%. But the fact that they were actually able to get a concession on something that the Republican Party largely loves. They love giving more money to the military. And the fact that you got some Republicans that actually got a win on cutting military spending is crazy. And so just imagine if progressives did it. And if they got more concessions for actual workers and poor people. Good Cookie says it is nice because they took it from Dems, but it's not like they are stopping the money laundering. They still want war, just not in all in one lump sum. They prefer to spread it across 20 years. And that's true. That's true. But I'm focused more on the tactic, not necessarily the policy concessions that they got for the most part. Huey says cutting military spending by $75 billion isn't serious. Should be cut by $300 billion at the least. I agree. But the fact that they actually got a concession and cut it at all is wild to me. Dabby Dab says, isn't he related to Red Bader Joe McCarthy? I don't know. Gerald Joshua says, it shows we can do way better. If not, chicken. I can't curse anymore, unfortunately. The way that YouTube now is when it comes to language, I have to be very careful. Waddy says, to be honest, I didn't even think about using force to vote to cut the military budget, but that's the power of the strategy. It's only limited by your imagination and your will. Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Huey says $15 minimum wage was good back in 2014. It needs to be over $17 an hour now. No, it needs to be over 27. That's how bad we need it to be. And it needs to be adjusted for inflation depending on the area in which you live. Also, I think that your rent should be no more than 10% of your income. But people look at me like I'm crazy for saying that. But I also think that, the median income in the area, the rental prices should not be more than 10%. Should not be more than 10% of that median income. But that's just my view. Chris Begley says, when you support something, but you are against everything that will allow it, you don't support it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Jay the Informant. Good Cookie says, JB, this was all fun and cool. All I ask you keep in mind that these cats are still Republicans. Look, that is not lost upon me. Since the Republicans forcing a vote is good for the strat overall, but hang tight, Republicans will be Republicans. That's the point. I trust that they will still be who they are. But the thing is that this was really just a class session to prove the point that it actually works. So I'm not saying that they aren't going to be who they are. I'm just saying that the strategy actually works. That's pretty much what this entire thing is about. Aaron Anderson says, are they really even progressive if they're supporting right-wing policies that serve war criminals? I feel like we don't even have a left or, for that matter, even a center. Good point. I agree. Leroy says, create the press. Let me see. Ray says, Brazilian version of the capital occupation happening right now. Really? I know that I got to be very careful in my language. I know that many Bolsonaro addicts, fan addicts, are butthurt Lula da Silva winning in Brazil. But yeah, and Bolsonaro didn't even go to the inauguration in order to hand off a peaceful transition of power over to Lula da Silva. Instead, he ran with his tail between his legs here to my city to be praised by Bolsonaro fanatics in a gated community here in Orlando, which is hilarious. And so now some of them are like, oh, Bolsonaro didn't actually lose, even though he lost fair and square. Gosh. Thanks for letting me know that. You see, Steak Man Mark says, weird times. Republicans will be going after the FBI and CIA from the right. Yeah. Oh, gosh, Cortez. Don't they all live in Florida, JP? Look, DeSantis makes it a hate fascist. Oh, that would never happen, Waddy, but a boy can dream, can he? Maybe you can stop by where Bolsonaro is living in Florida and get an interview for RBN. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy. Why are people... Sorry, my phone keeps buzzing. Anyway. Like, people want to message me, especially while I'm doing my thing. All right. Why are these people always coming into the chat trying to advertise their website for earning more money on Rockfin? It's crazy. Anyway. All right. So let's go to the chat in Rockfin. All right, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay. Doobie-doobie-doo. Okay. Krampus says Representative Ilhan Omar calls McCarthy's speakership agreement a deal with the far-right insurrectionists. So while that's true, yeah, it's true. What would they call it? What would Ilhan call it if they forced a vote and got concessions from Nancy Pelosi on many different things that the working people want? And then if she met all those concessions, then they voted for her, then what would she call that? Because the thing is that Ilhan was literally one of the people who actually said that forced vote was a good strategy. I'll show you in a second, Krampus, but she actually was talking about it. And it was like, and I responded, I was like, oh, so you can force the vote. Ilhan got a short memory. We'll talk about that. Thank you for the tip, Roger Meadows. Roger says, if we register independent en masse, we can flood redistricting commissions, board of elections, secretary of state offices, take over the entire election apparatus in each state, overwhelming both parties to where we break the legs and underpinnings of the system, eventually abolishing parties and running indie candidates who are actually embodying a true democracy. This will allow politicians to ally on an issue-by-issue basis instead of partisan basis. JB, that fight was... But JJ, duty, you want to know what real gangsters Republicans really are. Peep this. I sent this to Kit of Heartlands Media, your audience probably already knows. And I will get to that. Okay. And you shared an article. Let me show that tweet from Ilhan Omar though. Because here's the thing. Ilhan Omar already knew what we knew. So it's not lost on her. Wait, what? Oh, here we go. Okay. Let me share my screen really quick, and then I'll get to the article that Roger Meadows shared with us. All right. Let me enlarge this. So Ilhan knew. She knew. She just don't want you to know she knew. So this person says, Isra says, we'll be able to push Biden left. Yeah, okay. Ilhan comes in and says, yes, we can. With a slim, dim majority in the next Congress, anything can be possible. It would literally take 5 courageous progressive members to get concessions on progressive policies. So she knew that force to vote actually works. In fact, she talked about it right here. And so I chimed in. I said, oh, so you can force to vote. I said that in April 1st of 2021, the anniversary, the date that we actually started RBN. I said that to her. So the crazy part is they know, they just don't want to do it. That's the problem. So she can call it an agreement with deal with far-right insurrectionists, yeah. But the thing is that the strategy worked. That's one thing she can't deny. And they could have done it on their version. They could have did it a year ago, but they chose not to. Why? Because they knew that it would work. It's not the fact that they thought it would fail that they didn't do it. It's the fact that they knew it would work. That's what scared them the most. They were scared that it would work. That's the problem. Let me share this, and because I really got to get to this article, this next story, because I really want to get into this. And I want to be fair and explain as much as I possibly can. But this is from The Hill. It says GOP lawmakers once held a knife to Boehner's throat. Share some of the first part. It says Representative Don Young once pinned former Speaker John Boehner against the wall and held a knife to his throat during a heated debate about earmarks. Boehner told Politico that the incident in a new profile on the public Sunday. The former speaker described his difficulties in banning earmarks or measures that funded projects in lawmakers' home districts. Mossad's, let me see. Boehner said that Young once pinned him against the wall in the House during an argument over earmarks, and that Young held a 10-inch knife to Boehner's throat. Boehner responded by staring Young in the eyes and saying, F you. Young confirmed the account was mostly true to Politico, but pointed out that he and Boehner later became such good friends that Boehner was the best man at his wedding. This isn't the first time Young has been reported brandishing a knife in the house. He reportedly pulled out a knife on the house floor in 1988 when a lawmaker introduced a bill that would have restricted logging in Alaska. So, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, thanks, Roger, for that that story. Also, now the next story is going to be hard. I tried to, stay as lighthearted as I could for this first part because this part's going to be very somber. We have to talk about police failed in this instance, but this is a story that smells and feels like Trayvon Martin all over again. All right. Let me share my screen. This is Sinzae Reed. Sinzae Reed was a 13-year-old boy in Ohio that was gunned down by one of his neighbors, a 36-year-old white man. Sinzae was unarmed, and he was just out playing. He was no threat. And a 36-year-old white man killed him. The issue not only is that he was killed, but his shooter is still roaming the streets and free. And to add insult to injury, his shooter is one of his neighbors and still living near the family. This happened back in October. And the killer is still loose. The murderer is still loose. So we got to talk about it because a lot of people don't know about this story, and this should be national news. So I'm going to go back to this article because this article actually gives some great detail. But I'm going to go to this other article first. And the name of the shooter is Krieg Butler. So let me share my screen really quick and go over this story to get a little bit more detail about the murder of Sinzae Reed. Okay. Okay. His family, friends of 13-year-old Sinzae Reed calling for justice. This is out of Columbus, Ohio. Family and friends of 13-year-old Sinzae Reed, who was shot dead back in October at the Wedgwood Apartments, held a New Year's Day community service conference. We demand real, tangible answers and actions. This family deserves more. This community deserves more. The time is not now. The time is now. I'm sorry, the time is not now. The time was yesterday. It's been 3 months. According to police, Reed was found shot at the Hilltop Apartments complex on October 12th and was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly afterwards. 36-year-old Krieg Butler was arrested days after the shooting. Days after the shooting. Police said witness saw Butler exit a truck, fire shots at Reed, and then drove off. Officials had not confirmed whether Butler and Reed knew each other or what led to the gunfire. Reed's mother, Megan Reed, says she remembered every moment of October 12th, the day she lost her son. So I saw my baby's lifeless body covered in blood and lying on the ground, cold ground. I wasn't even able to hold him and let him know mommy was there. I was never supposed to be planning a funeral for my 13-year-old baby. Losing Sinzae is the far worst pain I have ever felt in my life. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I'm truly heartbroken. She says, I wish I could hear Sinzae call me mom again. I wish I could see him, smell him, and hold him again. But over everything, I wish I could tell him I love him. On New Year's Day, calls for justice for Sinzae continued as the community and families held its first news conference. Sinzae mattered. Sinzae had a support system. Sinzae had a community. Just C-Bus Ramon Obey said, 13 years old. This was just a child. He should have been able to live and grow up. This is a kid who just hit middle school. And that's a photo of the shooter that killed 13-year-old Sinzae. Police said during the interview and investigation, Butler alleged that he acted in self-defense. The prosecutor's office dismissed the charges. It says municipal court does not have jurisdiction or hear felony cases except for a limited period of time. It is standard practice for almost every felony case filed in municipal court to be dismissed. Not every case initiated in municipal court is presented to the grand jury. If the case is submitted to our office for review, we review the investigation to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to proceed and whether it is appropriate to pursue the case. The only time limitation is the statute of limitations, which is several years. This particular case is still under review for possible presentation to the grand jury, and unfortunately, I cannot advise you when this case will be presented to the grand jury. On October 12th, 2022, the Columbus Division Police responded to 832 Wedgwood Drive on a shooting where officers found 13-year-old Sinzae Reed suffering from gunshot wounds. Officers rendered aid until Mr. Reed was transported to an area hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Columbus police detectives interviewed numerous witnesses and filed murder charges on Krieg Butler on October 13, 2022. Mr. Butler was ultimately arrested and slated in the Franklin County Jail. During the homicide review of the investigation, there was an allegation made by Mr. Butler that he acted in self-defense. The Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, learning upon this information, dismissed the charges against Mr. Butler, pending the completion of the investigation. The Columbus Division of Police does not dismiss charges. We continue to investigate the circumstances of Mr. Reed's death with the help of outside entities and are still awaiting key forensic and ballistic evidence. Once the investigation is complete, we will submit the packet to Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, who will determine whether to present to the grand jury. Says we are aware of community's concerns regarding the investigation and want to ensure the community blah, 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 yakety schmackety. So that's what happened. He was let go. He was released because he said, I fear for my life and I was acting in self-defense. Self-defense against a 13-year-old boy? 13-year-old boy, you're a 36-year-old man, and a 13-year-old boy that's completely unarmed is a threat to your life? "13-year-old boy. 13. A 13-year-old boy is a threat to your life? An unarmed 13-year-old boy? I'm going to keep asking that question. What about you? Is a 13-year-old boy a threat to your life? An unarmed 13-year-old boy when you're brandishing a gun? Are they? Yeah, I pointed. I saw that too, Jonas. They're calling this boy Mister. Yeah, this is a baby. This is a baby, right? Let's go. His mother is Sinzae Reed, 13-year-old killed.
Joining us now is Sinzae Reed's mother, Megan
Okay, hang on. That's
Reed, and community activist Dewan Sharp. Thank you both so much for your time and joining us tonight. Megan, just want to start off by saying our deepest condolences go out to you for the loss of your son, which I cannot imagine the pain that you continue to feel. It's been nearly 3 months since your son was killed. Just take us back to October 12th, if you will. What was your son doing that day? How did you learn about what happened?
That day he woke up, he told me that he wasn't feeling good. He went back in his room. I was cooking, so I went in the kitchen. I didn't even know he went outside that day. Like less than 10 minutes later, the neighbors came banging on the door saying that Sinzae got shot. And they took Sinzae to the hospital. And they told me that he was shot in the chest, which I only thought at that time he was shot in the chest. They told me that they was trying to get his heart to restart for 20 minutes. And then they came back and got me, my mom, my two sisters. We went in there. As soon as we went in there, they called time of death, and that was at 6:26.
Dewan, Columbus police are investigating, but they say that they are still waiting for key ballistic evidence nearly 3 months later. Why do you think that it's taken this long?
I really don't know. Like, I know I received a paper from the coroner saying that it does take like 2 more months. But as far as I know right now, that my son got shot 4 times that I know of. Once in his chest, once in his right hand. His right hand's with his right with, and 2 times on the side. So even if Krieg is trying to play self-defense, he shot my son in his right hand for sure. So that means my son had his hands up. So he should still be in jail to this day, but he's not. He's walking around a free man.
Dewan, question for you. There are some people on social media who are making a parallel between Sinzae's death and the death of Ahmaud Arbery. That's taking, in that scenario, it took months for arrest to be made. Do you think that that's a fair comparison?
I do believe it's a fair comparison, but we can't really do comparison right now. We're just focused on the law right now. Krieg Butler, he was the one that was not allowed to have firearms. Krieg Butler was the one that opened fire in the school zone that almost hit multiple people. Krieg Butler was the one that fled the scene. Krieg Butler was the one that had to get apprehended by SWAT. And then it changed off of his self-defense. When we have people in the community, from us just coming out here talking to people, we found witnesses that seen it, that said since they didn't have a gun, that Krieg had a gun. And the police is investigating, but they're really investigating us, because after we had our rally, SWAT team hit their neighbor just looking for a gun that they did not find. There had never been a gun. And we don't understand why Sinzae is being tried, and he didn't do anything wrong. He was just 13, but a convicted criminal with the illegal firearms firing when we do have new gun laws here in Ohio. We're supposed to have enhancers. Craig should have just seen 10 years alone just for having the gun.
And so just to confirm.
Did y'all hear that? Hang on, let me go back for a second.
With the illegal firearms firing when we do have new gun laws here in Ohio, we're supposed to have enhancers. Craig should have just seen 10 years alone just for having the gun.
He has a domestic violence record. And he had a gun. And he's not supposed to have a gun. And they could have gotten just on gun possession alone.
And so just to confirm, no one has ever said that Sinzae had a gun, correct?
No one has said he had a gun. We got the original police report from which they released to the media when that happened. No gun. The city used Sinzae's name and likeness when they thought it was black on black crime. But when they found out it was Craig that killed him, it was been complete silence. We haven't heard from anyone from any type of policy. I'm just a community activist. I came over here to make sure that she was okay from her losing her son.
Megan, Krieg Butler, as we've just been discussing, is currently a free man. From your perspective as a mother, how difficult is it to know that the man who's accused of allegedly killing your son, that he's walking free, living still in the community?
I'm very frustrated because I know if it was the other way around, if Craig was a black man and my child was white, that black man would be in jail and my son would have justice. Or if since they would have killed Craig, my 13-year-old son would still be in jail. And the fact that he's just walking around living his life, want to go see his 10 kids.
In the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah, he lived, yeah.
Right. We can look out the window and see their home.
Yeah.
If police and authorities in Columbus are watching our report tonight, Megan, what is your message to the police?
I need justice for my son. My son is no longer here. I'm going to continue to talk, and I will be his voice until he gets justice.
We have demands for that.
Mm-hmm.
First off, we would like the immediate arrest of Krieg Butler. That's it, like for real. And number two is Gary Tyack in his office. We would like them replaced because they're not doing their job. The third is a apology from the city for us having to come out here and do this when it's their duty and their elected official capacity to do these things for us. And the final one is the DOJ to come into Columbus, Ohio to investigate the patterns of practice of the Columbus Police Department and our judiciary.
Well, what have police said to you? How are they defending that they have not arrested him at this point?
Silence.
Yeah. I haven't even talked to the detective on case 6 October 23rd when he called and interrogated me, asking me why do I allow my child, Sinzae, to carry a gun. Like, first of all, why would I allow my 13-year-old son to carry a gun? Like, that doesn't make sense. And why you interrogate me? My son is the victim. I don't know what happened that day. I wasn't over there.
Megan, we did not have the opportunity to ever meet your son. Talk to us about what Sinzae was like, what made him smile, what he loved to do.
Sinzae just turned 13, 2 months before this happened. He was a normal boy. Like, he had friends, he went outside to play. He did a normal boy stuff. And for them to like try to make him out to seem like he's in some kind of gang banger in a gang, stealing people's cars, doing all this other nonsense because he's black. That's what it comes out to, because he's black. It makes me mad, like really mad. Because if my son was white, once again, I wouldn't be in a situation right now. Matter of fact, if my son was white, Craig probably would have never killed him.
Megan and Dewan, we thank you so.
Pat says, hey, the guy was in his truck and stopped. Butler could have fled the threat by staying in his truck. Exactly. Let's go to this article really quick. Oh, boy. This is out of the Columbus Dispatch. Make sure this is large enough. Says family asks why charges dropped against Columbus man accused of killing a 13-year-old. This is some of the points. Says Krieg A. Butler, Sr., 36, in Franklin County Municipal Court in connection with Sinzae's death on the same date as the shooting. But a week later, prosecutors filed to dismiss the case on municipal court on October 19th. Franklin County Municipal Court Judge Mike McAllister accepted the motion and dismissed the case, meaning the $1 million bond Butler had been held on no longer applied, and Butler was released from jail. Columbus Police Homicide Detective Keith O'Connor said Thursday that there had been a claim of self-defense by Butler and his mother, but declined to comment further. So even Butler's mother was like, oh, he was claiming self-defense. Where was she? Why is his mama coming in and saying, oh, he was under self-defense? Like, what? But declined to comment further, citing an ongoing police investigation. Why is a 36-year-old man needing his mama to also come in and claim self-defense? Butler, the shooter, was previously convicted in Franklin County for misdemeanor domestic violence, according to court records, which under federal law will prohibit him from having a gun. Nicholas and a handful of other people demonstrated Thursday afternoon on the steps of outside Franklin Municipal Court seeking justice for Sinzae and the prosecution of Butler. Says prosecutors could still bring the shooting case before a grand jury for indictment in Franklin County Common Pleas Court, which handles felony cases like murder. Says according to Nichols, Sinzae was shot 4 or 5 times, including in his right hand and back. An autopsy report from the Franklin County Coroner's Office is not complete yet. So if he was shot in the back, that means he was running. He was running away. And if he's running away, that means he's not a threat. Dana Fairbanks asked, was his mother in the truck with him? That's not what witness testimony says. They say he was by himself. So if that's the case, then why are you in a truck coming out to shoot a 13-year-old? And why is your mama there with you testifying and saying, oh, and telling the police, oh, it was in self-defense? And so that's the story of Sinzae Reed. No. In fact, Steve, let me go back to, because you asked, did he have a weapon? Let's go back to the account in the paper. He says Columbus police were called around 5:45 p.m. on October 12th to the Wedge Apartments on the 800 block of Wedgwood Drive in the Hilltop. Butler is a resident of the apartment complex. According to court records filed by a police officer, an eyewitness who knows Butler saw him exit a red truck and fire multiple times at Sinzae, striking him several times. Butler then got into his vehicle and fled the scene, according to court records. Police arrested Butler a day later. Officers found Sinzae suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Paramedics rushed Sinzae to Ohio Health Doctors Hospital, where he died at 6:26 p.m. By the way, they did not find a gun on him. So when people say that we have a problem with police, and when people deny that we have a problem with racism in this country, with violence in this country, this is why. Says Nichols, responding to Butler and his mother's claim on social media of self-defense, says she does not believe Sinzae could have had a weapon. And they found no weapon on him. So if they didn't find a weapon on him, that means he didn't have one. I mean, he was unarmed. This was a baby, man. This was a baby, man. And this dude is still walking free. God, there's white supremacy in this country. We can't even get justice at all for babies. So yeah, this is what I needed to cover today. And I at least want you guys to know who Sinzae Reed was, his case, so that this gets some attention, at least from us in independent media, since a lot of people don't know about it. And I implore people who are also part of the independent media to cover this case as well. Because to be honest with you, Krieg Butler should be in prison right now. He should be in jail right now. He should be indicted. He is literally a danger to the kids in the neighborhood. He's a danger to the people in the neighborhood. And he's walking around shooting 13-year-olds? No. And then he can just get off by saying, claim self-defense. Oh, self-defense. Sorry. Nope, self-defense. It's pretty sick. And I mean, and the fact that he could do that, he can claim self-defense and get off. He sounds like George Zimmerman, who shot Trayvon Martin. Let me, it says, according to Lloyd, the self-defense rule is a byproduct of the stand your ground laws and is controversial because it protects the shooter as opposed to the victim. It says from Shauna Lloyd says, in Ohio, the self-defense law is changed, and the legal part of that is burden is changed. She said previously, if a shooter said, I shot someone in self-defense, they had to prove it was self-defense. Now that the law has changed, it changes that burden and shifts it to the prosecution. And if the prosecution doesn't care, then they're just going to let the guy go free. So, yes, I need to cover that. And, you're not going to get too many people who are talking about that. Yeah, Juliet, absolutely. It incentivizes murder because the dead victim can't talk. Steve says if that was white and the killer was black, then it would be a completely different story. Yeah. Robert Templeton says, I fear for my life and my big truck against that 13-year-old boy. Shameful. Yep. Yep. So, I hate to leave the stream on a more somber note, but that's what I have to do. So, but guys, continue to remember the name of Sinzae Reed. Thank you, Mark, for the super chat saying, keep up the good work, JB. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Track says, don't we have an anti-lynching law now? What good is a law if it can't be enforced? Hey, Miss Alita, good to see you. Yeah. But yeah, I got to get going. And plus, Sabby's going to be live on Sunday, I think on her channel in like 2 minutes. So if you guys can go over there and support Sabby on her channel. But thank you guys so much for joining in. Thank you guys for tuning in here on RBN. I am so glad to have this conversation with you guys in order to bring these stories to light. Did you like to stream? We need to like this stream in order to get these stories more out there so that people can hear more about what's going on. Because if not, then guess what? They end up falling on deaf ears. not falling on deaf ears, but they don't get as much attention as it should. So this is one of the reasons why it's best to do this. Thank you for the super chat. Steve says thank you. Thank you very much for that as well. By the way, I will be doing on my channel the reading of Dirty Truths by Michael Parenti, as well as the readings of Asada Shakur. I should be doing it later this evening, so I'll be doing that on my channel. And if you guys would like to go to my channel or even subscribe to my channel, here's the link to my channel. Go ahead and get that subscribe if you guys like. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to all the patrons on Patreon as well. And if you guys would like, you guys can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Revolutionary Blackout. And thank you so much for everybody. Thank you, EMK. Thank you so much. And if you guys have not subscribed to RBN, please make sure to do so, because it's deeply important. And like the stream. Water your plants, water your souls, leave the world better than you found it. And justice for Sinzae Reed. Love you all.